Hey everybody, happy June 30th and welcome to the Renatus InvestEdge. My name is Jay Stark. It is my pleasure, my honor, and my opportunity to get to welcome you to our call every single Monday, and I love it. I love being on these calls because this call is designed to bring out on the call people that are making money in today's real estate market and are here to share their tips and tricks, the ins and outs of the market, so that we can bring that information to you every single week. And today is a very special treat because we're going to have an opportunity to get to hear from Bob Snyder, the CEO and founder of Renatus. Now, before I turn the time over to him, I want to encourage every single one of you. Your challenge for today is to ask Bob a question. If Bob is a representation of the opportunity that comes with Renatus, meaning seeing real estate education applied and taken action on in life, and then creating the kind of wealth, the kind of life that you don't want to or have to retire from, if that's a kind of person that you would love to ask questions of, then today is your opportunity because you're going to get to ask them to Mr. Bob Snyder, the founder and CEO of Renatus himself. Now, I've worked for Bob for over 14 years, and I can tell you it's been an absolute pleasure to get to be by his side through the entire ups and all of the downs with Renatus. You know, all of the ups, those are a lot of fun, but in the downs, that's when somebody's character truly comes to light. And it is my honor to get to present to you an individual whose character is beyond reproach. He is somebody that has the ethical and moral center that I want to line up behind every single day. And in fact, one of the very best compliments that I've ever heard anyone give to Bob was my wife. And she looked at Bob and she said, "Bob, if I knew nothing more than this, you would be the kind of person that I would want Jay to be around." She said, every single day he comes home more inspired as a husband and a father than he was when he left. That's who Bob Snyder is. And today you're going to have an opportunity to receive your own inspiration from the man that I consider my mentor, Mr. Bob Snyder.
Wow, thank you, Jay. Man, you make me feel great about myself.
You make me feel great.
It's one of those deals where, I mean, you know, the validation just keeps pouring in. And here's the good news about it, is that I could equally compliment Jay on every single area of the nice things that he said about me, simply because he's a man of integrity, a man of character. I'm thrilled to be able to do this with him every single day. And
me too.
You know, you do a great job. So thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Whoa, look at us both on the camera. You know what? I noticed something. You don't even care. Jay is one of those guys where, I mean, you know, when we are standing together, we're standing together. I can look him right in the eye and he can look me right in the eye. But when we're sitting in a chair, he's what you call tall in the saddle. I mean, as a matter of fact, so tall in the saddle that I feel like I need to find a phone book right now. Wow.
Here, let me... There we go. I'll help out a little bit.
That's so much better. That's so much better. Yes. Take some height off that torso,
man. My microphone down here.
How does it feel when you're down here with the rest of us?
You know what? The air is pretty clean down here. It's pretty oxygen rich. I like that. You know, Carrie Skirtlow was the first one to ever call me tall in the saddle, and it's because I was sitting next to her husband. He's 6'4".
That's
and
right.
When we sit next to each other, we look eye to eye.
Exactly.
And
and what are you standing, like 5'10"?
5'10".
Yeah, 5'10". I'm 5'9". So,
I love it. Now Aaron's going to come in and adjust all the cameras down for us.
Hey, we are so thrilled to be able to spend some time with you today because I've got a great topic, and then we're going to get into the general answers. So get your questions ready. Let's dial these things in. I'm here for you. But I wanted to just point out a few things. First and foremost, man, you know what? If you like this program, if you like Renatus InvestEdge, if we're helping you and doing some good works with you, then save us into your profile there, subscribe, and make sure that you hit the notification button so that every single time we have any kind of a new episode coming out, you're the first to get it, because this is designed to help you in your real estate investing business to really just do better at engagement and drive profitable deals. So It's all for you, and I want to make sure that you are there to enjoy the benefits. Now, let's talk a little bit about real estate. Here's what we've had. I mean, really, you take a look at the last 50 plus, 60 plus years, right? Actually, it goes way beyond that. Goes way back to where they first started keeping track of all of the numbers, and the National Board of Realtors, you know, started keeping all the data and the statistics. Is that we've only had one period of time in all of that those many decades where real estate prices across the entire company, or entire country, not company, the entire country have come down.
Right.
And that was during the Great Recession. It was
So
the
back
only
in
time.
2008.
Yeah, 2008, 2009, 10. There was only one time in the recorded history of real estate where the data was provided for us that nationally, across the board, real estate prices settled down and started to go down. I want you to think about that because I'm going to give you some information to chew on. Real estate is really a localized investment decision. Now, there are markets across the country where you can crush it on cash flows. You don't have to pay a lot for the property, but yet rents are still high. And, it's the cost of acquisition versus the cost of maintenance. And then, of course, the rents that come in. So you've got really great cash flowing markets. And then you have other markets that are great appreciating markets. Not so good on the cash flow, right? So you have to kind of figure out, where you want to go. Every market is a little bit different, and every market appreciates at a different rate. Now, I know we've talked about it on the InvestEdge before, but there's this great article that was put out by the New York Post a couple of months ago. It's longer than a couple of months now, but what it really outlined are 10 cities that they chose based on their analytics and their predictive data search as to what was going to go up and what was going to go down, that they believed by the year 2033 would be $1 million median home prices. Salt Lake City, where I live, is one of those. And, right now our median home price here is sitting around 520, I think it is, 520, 530. And they're projecting that in the next 8 years, it's going to be over $1 million. Well, now, if you have that kind of information and you put faith and confidence in it, then you know that a buy and hold strategy there, even if your cash flows are not what you would like them to be, is going to have an eventual payoff, right? That's the beauty of it. I mean, they were saying that Seattle, Washington is going to see $1.5 million median home price. I mean, areas like Boise, Idaho are going to go from, I think it was like 480 right now to over $1 million median home price. So these are predictors of where the market is going to go. And they're pretty solid, based on historical evidence as to where we're at. The thing that I love about real estate is it is more predictable. It's more controllable. As an investment, you actually have some influence and control over the investment, which you don't have with a lot of other types that are out there. Here's a few other things to keep in mind. That while I can, highlight the markets that are really going to go up, there may be markets that actually see a decline. I'm going to give you a step-by-step formula to identify whether or not your market is increasing in value or decreasing in value. Are we getting that appreciation or depreciation? Where is it going? And this isn't rocket science, but pay attention first and foremost.
Can I just reiterate one thing real quick?
Yes, you most certainly can.
You just talked about how you're going to talk about certain markets that are appreciating and certain markets that are depreciating.
Yes.
You're not saying invest in one or don't invest in the other.
No, not at all.
You're saying be smart about which one you invest in and
I'm
how.
so glad that you brought that up because you know what? In real estate, the thing you got to remember is that what you want is you want a market going up or you want a market coming down. I mean, the worst thing that we get as an investor is just a flat market, something that's stagnant. It's not seeing a lot of growth. Because if it's going up, hey, listen, you can even make a bad decision and appreciation is going to overcome that. If it's coming down, you've got a lot of motivated sellers and a lot of individuals who will trade equity for peace of mind, which puts you in the driver's seat to be able to go out there and do greater deals. So, so I'm glad you emphasized that.
Yeah.
Yes, compadre.
Yes.
I feel as though we're equals now that we adjusted the seat.
Now that our height is...
Yes, I do. I feel like we really, we need to do this more often. So let's get into it. Okay, let me define just a few things. First bullet point I want to talk about is this. When supply is low and demand is high, real estate prices increase. Now, I know you're sitting there in your chair and you're going, whoa, that was revelatory. I need to write that down.
Yes, you do.
Right?
Yeah.
But so often we overlook the obvious, right? I mean, we really do. So take a look at your own individual market and say, okay, in the market that I'm living in right now, what do the stats tell me? Do they tell me that we have more people moving in than we have people moving out? Because if so, then that's going to create a demand for real estate and that's going to drive prices up. Or is your market one of those where it's like, okay, this town is dead. Everybody's moving out. Nobody's moving in. Well, guess what? Then that's a market where real estate prices are going to continue to fall. So, you have to pay attention to the market. Nationally, we're still a good 2.4 to 2.5 million housing units short of where we should be just to meet the demand that is taking place in the market right now. So Think about that and how that's going to work. Because on a national scale, if you were to just take that number in and of itself, you'd go, oh, well, then the market's going up. So let's take a look at a few other things. Population expands, creating more demand. Again, this goes back to that whole thing of supply and demand, right? Is the population increasing? The population in the United States right now, and I haven't checked it in the last little bit, but I mean, okay, this is within the last 6 months old. I think we're sitting at about 238 million people in the United States right now, 238 million people. Now, if you take a look at deaths, births, and immigration, okay, we add a person to the population of the U.S. about every 11 seconds, okay? That's even taking into consideration those who pass on versus those who are born in immigration.
So the net growth is 1 per 11 seconds.
Yes, 1 per 11 seconds.
Okay, so basically 6 people a minute.
You do math well. You're good at that stuff.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
He's educated. Yes. I have always had to pride myself on becoming an illiterate success. Yeah. So here's the thing to keep in mind. So those numbers continuing on, they're projecting that really by about the year 2040, we're going to hit 400 million people in the United States of America. 400 million people. Now, there's only about 2.2 individuals per household. So do the math on that. I mean, if we're going from 235 or 238, wherever we're at right now, to 400 million people, then we're going to add how many people to the population, Jay?
168 million.
Not that much. Not that much.
No, you didn't say 232 to 400?
Excuse me, did I say 232? I meant 332.
332,
or
okay.
335, 338. So,
okay.
Yes.
So then it'd be 65 million.
Yes.
And if
that
we
would be the
divide
correct
by
answer.
2.2, we're talking that's almost 30 million homes.
Almost 30 million homes. You heard it here first or second, depending on, what news feed you're on. But that means we're sitting at, another 30 million plus homes that need to be built just to take care of the expanse in population. That's significant. Now let's take into consideration something else. Inflation. This is a big one. Did you know that inflation rises, real estate prices go up? That's the reason why real estate is a hedge against inflation, is because of that very fact.
Sorry,
you're laughing. What are
it
you
just
laughing
cracks
for?
me up because it's one of those things like saying, do you know that if you add 1 to 2, it becomes 3? Like, until you know it, it's foreign, but as soon as you know it, it becomes basic. But yeah, absolutely. When you have a hard asset like a home, if the dollar goes down in value or inflation goes up, then that home is worth more dollars.
It's going to cost you more to buy it.
Yes.
Right? It's going to cost you more to buy it. There's a few other reasons why it's going to cost you more to buy it. It's not just because, inflationary prices go up. We got to think about the building materials. So often we're consumed with, what are the price of eggs, right?
Toilet
What's a loaf
paper.
of bread? What's toilet paper? Oh my goodness, man. Boy, if we have another epidemic, I'm getting rid of my gold. I'm stocking up on TP.
Oh man.
So all of that plays an important role because building materials also increase in price. And as they go up, here's the thing you got to remember, as prices on building and new construction go up, it brings with it the existing home market. Because, well, why would somebody sell a house, right, when they go, hang on a minute here. If you're willing to pay $580 for a brand new home, you should be willing to pay $540 for my existing home. Right?
Yeah.
And then we've got our sellers that are catching on to what's going on in the market because they get educated and they go, well, why would I undercut myself? They can't get a brand new home for this price, so let's lean into that a little bit. Let's raise the price of our existing home.
So in your estimation, you may or may not have all of this information, but since they've been tracking inflation, has inflation ever gone down?
No. Oh, okay. Let me point this out. Inflation may have gone down, but once the prices are set, you don't really get to see those come down too much.
Gotcha.
Right?
So we don't have something.
There is a little fluctuation, but not much.
We don't have something that like reverses inflation then.
Not so much. Not so much. All you need to do is just go back and take a look. What did an automobile cost in the 1970s? I can tell you this. My grandpa got a brand new Toyota. I can't even remember what what model it was, but he got a brand new Toyota. And I remember the sticker price on that thing being $2,300. $2,300 for a car in the 1970s.
50 years ago.
Yeah. That same vehicle, no matter how you slice it today, I mean, it's going to be what, 40 grand, 35, 40
You
grand,
might be able to
like that.
find a very economy level car in the 20s, brand new.
Yeah.
But that's the economy, like the baseline of all cars.
Yeah. Engine optional.
No AC, no radio, engine optional.
But you got to think about how that's continued to compound. Have automobile prices ever come down in the last 50 years?
No.
No, not at all. I mean, think about the loaf of bread and what that cost you 50 years ago. I mean, I used to be able to go down to the store. I mean, for less than a quarter, I could get a loaf of bread. Where are they at now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. I love how you talk about real estate as a hedge against inflation because as inflation changes the value of our currency, it doesn't change the value of the property. The value of the property continues to rise. And if a market's appreciating, then the value of the property is going up.
Yes, it does.
Even when the value depreciates, though, it is still incredibly valuable to me because I am smart. I'm a real estate investor who has learned how to earn my money when I buy the property. And then I get to get paid when I sell the property.
Exactly, because he's not paying full retail. He's learned how to do wholesale purchase acquisition so that he's buying at a deep discount because he understands creative acquisition strategies. That's the beauty of it. Individuals who just lean into the retail market, they find themselves really at a riskier position because if the market does correct a little bit, and generally, I mean, we're only going to see a 5 or 10% correction, but on a $500,000 home, that could still be 50 grand, right? So if that happens, then they put themselves in a little bit of a vulnerable position. If they hang on to it, the market's going to overcome that. Inflation's going to continue to rise, and appreciation is going to continue to drive values. But in the short term, they could take a little bit of a hit on their net worth. And that's why, we like to make sure that we buy at deep discounts. We find motivated sellers with situations, challenges that need to be overcome. And then we lean into it to purchase a property that is well below market value so that if the market dips, we're still protected.
Yep.
Yeah. If the market raises, that just means more profit.
That's awesome.
So it's a beautiful thing. So inflation is a big deal there for many of the reasons that we talked about. Here's another thing. Scarcity of buildable land. Now, individuals who have gotten in a car and driven from New York to California will notice that there's an awful lot of land out there that has not been built on. The reason why I qualified that by saying buildable land. You're not going to build on a mountain in the Rockies because you don't have utilities going there. You're not going to build in some of these areas across the plains because they're looking at it going, I need this for corn or wheat or whatever else. You're not going to build in areas that don't have utilities where you've got to be completely off the grid because, then, you got to go 3 hours to Costco. And who's going to do that? Really.
And there's other areas where you're just not going to build because it's a floodplain or it's, there's an environmental risk as well.
There's a number of different reasons. So when we talk about buildable land, this is generally, what contractors, developers get up every single morning worrying about. I've got a friend of mine that owns a large construction and development home here in Utah. They build single-family homes primarily, but he has 3 full-time employed people, and all they do is land search. That's all they do. They're out there talking to farmers. They're talking to landholders. They're out there banging doors, kissing babies, shaking hands, doing the thing, because if they don't have land, they can't build their product, and they're out of business. So, and with 3 full-time people, trust me, he is doing everything he can to stay ahead of the demand. If he had more land, he'd build more houses. So there is a scarcity of buildable land across the United States, which also contributes to some of the challenges that, we're dealing with as far as housing shortage, because they just can't throw it up anywhere. And whenever there's scarcity, then real estate prices go up. There's another thing. Real estate investment demand goes up. Real estate prices go up. There's an awful lot of folks, both in this country and outside of this country, who want to buy real estate. Why? Well, I'll get into that in a little bit too when we kind of compare it against some of the other investments that are out there. But they want real estate because it's tangible. It's physical. It's an asset, that goes up in value over time. It's insurable. There's a lot of great reasons for that, right? It's also an incredible tax benefit because you can depreciate the very real estate that you're making money off of. So inside of the U.S., as well as outside investors wanting to invest in the U.S., they're buying up more and more real estate. Here's another thing. Take a look at hedge funds. Man, over the last, especially 10 years, wow, the hedge fund acquisition of real estate has skyrocketed. Well, if they continue to buy at their ever-increasing rate, then that also means that there's less available property on the market and less available investment property on the market especially. So that drives real estate prices up as well. See, there's a common theme here. Let me get into the next one here. Government assistance and tax incentives. As soon as the government gets involved and goes, hey, real estate's no longer affordable, we gotta help people. We gotta help them. We got to figure out how we can do another incentive, or we can even lower the 3 to 5% down payment requirement on an FHA loan. Let's see what we can do to get it to zero down, right? To get people into homes. What they don't take into consideration is that the moment they come up with an incentive program, or the moment they start feeding money into the market to help first-time home buyers or individuals who may be in a little bit of an economically depressed situation, what happens is that now that buyer has the ability to purchase more of a house. They don't scale down going, whoa, I got a down payment. Whoa, I'm going to get this great discount. Instead, it's human nature to go, well, now I can afford 4 bedrooms instead of 3 bedrooms. And they automatically scale up.
Yeah, that's true.
Or they're looking for a nicer home, one that is newer and maybe doesn't have the risky potential of needing repairs in the near future. And what do sellers do? Sellers feed into that because they know that the buyer can qualify for more expensive a payment and a more expensive home. So they automatically raise their prices. Another leading indicator of what's going on in the marketplace and why real estate prices go up. So pay attention to government incentive programs. Here's another thing too. Foreign investment increases. We kind of touched on that, but there is an influx of money coming into the United States because they want our real estate. So that continues. Limited new construction. Now we're seeing that simply because interest rates have gone up. And with the interest rates going up, that means that, payments go up, prices go up, things of that nature. It has slowed the new construction business a little bit. I haven't seen a massive decline in our area, but I've certainly seen a little bit of a slow.
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
Can I tell you a little bit from my experience?
Yes, please do.
So I sat on the city council in my city for a few months, not very long. I was assigned to help fill somebody's seat after she passed away, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed was every single request that we had that came into the city for like new builds, new construction, was for high density. None of it was for single family homes.
Right.
So if somebody was going to develop a property, they wanted to change the zoning. Every single piece of sizable property, they wanted to change the zoning to allow a higher and higher density on it. And so what the particular city that I was a part of the council on, what we were doing is we were trying to negotiate back with those developers and say, okay, you can do 50% of it high density. The other 50% has to be patio homes. But then they didn't want to do regular single family homes. They wanted to do like a 9,000 square foot lot home, and then put a small home on that,
right?
And then create an HOA around it and all these things. And so single thing. Now, granted, that was a very small market, very small city, but that's what people were looking for.
Yeah. Well, and I'm seeing cities really leaning into that. I mean, the state of Utah, for one thing, is imposing high density requirements on different cities. I don't know what it is in your market, wherever you live, but you need to check that out because that'll also influence what homes, what properties get built. If it's all pushed towards high density, then that means that single family dwellings become a more coveted product that individuals will pay more for. So that's another thing that kind of is a leading economic indicator as to whether prices are going to go up or come down. There's another thing that they're leaning into in different markets across the country, and that is accessible or accessory dwelling units, ADUs. And those ADUs are a gold mine for anybody who's really smart about it, because that means if you're in an area that is zoned for an ADU, you can put a tiny home in your backyard and you can rent that thing out so that you've got additional revenue coming in to offset your mortgage payment.
Yeah, and that's one thing that a lot of cities are really leaning into right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are a lot of rules and regulations around ADUs, so you want to definitely make sure you understand your city code, your ordinance. But it really is becoming rarer and rarer to see people that are building out entire neighborhoods of single family homes. It's becoming much more popular for people to actually build out single family homes with ADUs, new build.
Yeah.
And that's becoming something that's becoming more and more popular.
True story. Here's another thing to take into consideration when we talk about new construction. And the reason why there's a little bit of a dip in new construction, it's not because the demand isn't there. We started this conversation with saying, hey, we're 2.4 million homes short of where we should be, right? The reason why is because there's a massive labor shortage that has taken place in this country. Think about it. Every single time I have a conversation with any of the trades, I mean, I've talked to numerous electricians. Every single one of them, they're in their 50s to 60s. Every one of them, right? And because they're in their 50s and 60s, my question is always, hey, what are you doing to find replacements? And they say we can't find replacements because nobody wants to become an electrician, or very few individuals do. I've had the same conversations with plumbers. I've had the same conversations with individuals who are framing houses with, finish workers is just impossible.
Yeah.
We're trying to get some finish work done on one of our properties right now. We're on a year waiting list.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, it is insane to see what's going on because the trades are suffering. There's a decline in tradesmen because the older generation who are the craftsmen are retiring. And now there's nobody coming up through the ranks to replace them. So there's another challenge there. But that's a challenge that can be overcome. A thought just hit me. You know, we've already witnessed how they're doing 3D built homes and how they're doing all of these pre-built homes that they're bringing in and putting up. I think you're going to see a lot more of that where homes are assembled in a factory and then shipped to a site and pretty much just two halves put together.
Until that becomes the norm, though, all of these labor shortages means what?
Well, it means that they can produce less product with a higher rate of demand and real estate prices go up. Yeah. Here's another thing. This also contributes to the rise of construction costs because now, if they are going to get any labor, that labor is demanding a premium, right? So the existing labor, out of this world. I think I've shared the joke with you, and I think it's funny because there was the time when a famed surgeon needed to have a plumbing problem addressed. So he called the plumber. He said, hey, listen, I got a stopped up sink. Can you get over here and take care of this darn thing? The guy was in his house for 10 minutes, and walked out of the bathroom, handed him a bill. The surgeon goes, holy smokes, this is outrageous. He says, I'm a surgeon and I don't charge that kind of price. And he says, well, neither did I when I was practicing as a doctor. So we're starting to see a migration over. The dollars will definitely attract people into the trades. But you're going to get to a point where, I mean, you've got tradesmen that are demanding $100, $120 an hour, $150 an hour, from a general contractor just to come onto the job site. And all of those costs have to be passed on to the buyer, which means real estate prices go where, Jay?
Up.
Up is right. It also contributes to real estate shortages because they can't produce enough. And then, of course, when interest rates drop, now the adverse works. When interest rates rise, it has a tendency to cool the market, but you have to take a look at the supply-demand equation, which we've been talking about, because sometimes interest rates can migrate up and we still don't see a whole lot of cooling in the market just because the demand is so outrageously high.
Yeah.
That there's enough folks out there that can afford it that they'll buy it. They'll outbid the ones who can't, right? But when interest rates drop, that also means that the payment is lower. But again, it's human nature. You know what they do. The minute the payment is lower, people want that fourth bedroom, that fifth bedroom, and they can afford it because the payment's lower. So they just go out there and they get themselves into a position where they're house poor. There's a lot of folks in this country that do really well especially by international standards. but they're still broke. It's just that they're broke at a higher level.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, my wife has been serving in an organization in Ogden where she's been helping the transient population there a lot.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, even being displaced in the United States is a better lifestyle. We have more services that are available for these people than most other countries around the world.
Yeah, we do. You know what? Can I just point out something? Let me brag on your wife for a little bit, because my observations about Whitney have always been so stellar. I mean, you know, she leans into her higher calling on a regular basis.
Yeah, she does.
You know, and the old adage that you wish to be the change you wish to see in the world. Be the change you wish to see in the world. That famous Gandhi quote. Whitney's exemplary in that regard. So, you know, that's the great thing about it is, listen, when your needs are met, you can go out there and actually extend that time and energy and service to others. And she does a great job of that. Those are a few reasons why real estate prices will continue to rise. So on the whole, you know, discounting individual markets that may actually show that the things we talked about are going in the opposite direction, right? But on the whole, across the country, those are the things that I'm observing. This is what I'm taking a look at in different markets. You need to use these as economic indicators to drive your purchase decisions. What do you see coming up? Do you want to be in a cash flowing market, a good rental market? Do you want to be in a high appreciating market? Do you want to be, you know, in new construction? Where do you want to position yourself? And the market will dictate what strategy you use. That's the reason why we teach multiple strategies, is so that individuals are armed for any situation. So, man, we've been talking for a little while on this, but I wanted to say, this is the great news about real estate. You truly can take these different economic indicators, take a look at the market, and get a feel as to whether or not it's going up or it's coming down. And then you can make purchase decisions based on that. It's a little difficult to do that with stocks, with bonds, with mutual funds, with gold, with silver, with crypto, with everything else that's out there, right? And those are the investment comparisons that I want to really drill down on, because I want to help you understand why I invest in real estate and why I don't invest in anything else. This is it. I will not invest in anything that is outside of my area of expertise. And based on what I've observed over the last, number of decades, I don't think you should either. Let's do a little investment comparison. First of all, let's take a look at leveraged investment opportunities, okay? If we take a look at leverage, that means that you can put a little in. You don't have to come up with all the money, all the cash to, make the investment. If I want to go buy stocks, if I want to buy $100,000 in stocks, Jay, how much money do I have to come up with?
Let me think. $100,000.
Interesting. If I want to buy gold or silver, $100,000 in gold and silver, how much money do I have to come up with, Jay?
$100,000.
How about bonds?
$100,000.
How about crypto?
$101,000.
What about real estate?
You know what? That depends.
It depends on a lot of things. What does it depend on, Jay?
It depends on interest rates. It depends on what kind of financing you can get in place.
Mm-hmm.
There are some opportunities that are available where it will cost you $0, just a little bit of time.
Right.
Others will cost you minimal dollars compared to the value of the property.
Have you ever gotten a free house, Jay?
I have.
Yeah. It is a pretty good feeling, isn't it?
It's a great feeling.
So in other words, you didn't have to pay anything to get the house.
Nope.
Somebody gave it to you.
They did. They signed a piece of paper and it was mine.
I know. I had that happen. I've only had it happen once. Generally, I've got to put some money into the dang thing, but it was a pretty good buy.
Yeah.
Because I put nothing into it. I put renters in it for 9 months, and then I sold it for $63,000 more than I had into it. So I realized a $63,000 profit after paying for everything else.
Mine wasn't quite that lucrative in that way. We took ownership of it for $0, but then did have to start putting money into it to fix it up so that we could actually turn around and sell it.
Gotcha. But when you figure out the rate of return on that, you only had to put thousands in to realize a property ownership position. How much do you think the property was worth?
At the time, oh man, I'd have to ask Whitney that question. I believe we sold it right around $350,000, and it cost us $0 to get into it. And the debt service that we took over was right around 150-ish.
Yeah. Okay. 150-ish.
Yeah.
That's what you call a pretty good return on investment. But you know what? You can't do that with stocks and bonds and mutual funds and crypto.
Right.
I mean, you can go into creative acquisitions on real estate, and you can do that all day long. Do you realize how many millions of loans there are out there all across the United States right now that are 30-year fixed loans in place between 2.6 and 3.5%? Think There shouldn't ever be an affordability issue. What there is a lack of knowledge and creativity. But there is not a lack of affordable payments and interest rates out there. Everybody just defaults to what they know. Go to the bank, go to the mortgage company, get a traditional loan.
But if you went to the bank and you said, hey, I'd really like to borrow some money to buy some gold, what are they going to say?
Ooh, they're going to say not today, not ever. That's what they're going to say.
What about some stock? Hey, I got this hot tip on a stock.
Hot tip on a stock?
Yep.
Yeah. Bank's going to say, I don't think so. No.
What about crypto?
They're going to say, security, could you take this guy out of here? Right?
That's one of my favorite parts about having real estate, having that hard asset, is you can take an address into just about any bank across the country, and they may or may not actually loan to you on it, but they will have the conversation with you.
They'll sit down to see whether or not the numbers are going to work, and this is going to be. Why? Because you're securitizing it with an asset that the debt service is significantly lower than the value in the marketplace. That's the reason why they'll loan on it. And it's a securitized loan so that their interest is protected. Because what any investor really wants to focus on initially is not the return on investment. A lot of people go, oh, that's everything. No, it's getting their principal back. The second thing is the return on investment.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that they're going to get paid back. And a bank wants to make sure they get paid back, and they can do it with real estate. They can do it all day long. That's the beauty.
And the interesting thing is, if you go in and get a securitized loan against this kind of investment, odds of the institution holding on to it that you actually set up the loan with, like maintaining it over the entire life of the loan, pretty low.
Right.
They tend to sell it off pretty quick, so they're on to the next.
Yep. Now, with general traditional stocks and mutual funds, Jay, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, if you go in and you say, all right, I want to make money in the stock market, and you just buy traditional stocks and bonds and mutual funds, are you going to get any cash flow out of those things?
I have heard that there are some that will pay dividends. However, it's not cash flow. It's kind of just hoping that the company will
if the company does really good, then, if you're in a dividend stock, you can do that. There are some bonds that have a little bit of that, but not so much.
Right.
But let's take a look at that with crypto. I mean, with crypto, what have you got to do to realize the benefit of the investment?
You got to sell it.
You got to sell it.
Yeah.
With stocks and bonds, mutual funds, gold and silver, you got to sell it.
Yep.
With real estate, do you have to sell the real estate to realize any kind of a cash flow or residual?
No, you do not.
Interesting, isn't it? So, in other words, your money continues to make money, and you continue to develop an income stream based on the property that you've already purchased. Hopefully, you did it with a creative acquisition strategy so that you got tons of equity built in there, and you've also got a higher cash flowing position on the property. So, another checkbox for real estate. Let's talk about tax advantages, okay? Tax advantages. Whoa, this is a big one. Taxes are your largest expense in life. You're going to pay more in taxes than you pay for food, clothing, housing, and entertainment combined. Scary, isn't it? I know, it's kind of terrifying when we think about it. I was trying to remember what Tax Freedom Day was this year. I think it was like May 15th.
Tax Freedom Day?
Yeah, that means that if you were to pay all of your taxes at the first of the year, right? See, they piece it out over the year, so they trick you. But if you were to pay all of your annual taxes up front, you would work until May 15th before you'd ever make a dime. All the rest just goes to the government. So that was Tax Freedom Day.
Gotcha.
That's what that is. So taxes are a big deal. What tax advantages do you get for stocks?
None that I know of.
Yeah. How about gold and silver?
None that I know of.
Yeah. There are some bonds,
municipal
bonds, different things like that. There are some tax benefits that could be put into place. They're not on all of them, but what about crypto?
None.
Yeah, none. Absolutely none.
Yeah.
But with real estate, man, I get to deduct everything. It's a business. My real estate business, I deduct a portion of my home for my home office deduction. I deduct my mileage on my automobiles. I deduct my travel between properties. I deduct any tools or money that I put into the properties that I need to use for maintenance and upkeep. And then I get to deduct the actual depreciation of the home. And I've been smart a number of times and actually done cost segregation studies on my properties so that I was able to accelerate the depreciation on those properties. where you can depreciate it down to a 1 to 5 year schedule rather than a 27.5 year schedule, or a 37.5 year schedule if it's in the commercial real estate world, or a 15-year schedule if it's in an economically depressed area. So there's a lot of that going on, which you get all the tax advantages with real estate. So think about how you can minimize your largest tax or your largest expense in life, taxes, with the investment vehicle that you're looking for.
Maybe move tax freedom day a little bit earlier in the year, maybe in the first quarter sometime.
That would be great. Or maybe the first day.
Ooh,
yeah, the first day would be better. Let's talk about appreciation. There's forced and natural appreciation, right? Now, you know what? There's when we talk about appreciation, you get that on stocks, you get that on gold and silver, you get that on crypto. It depends on bonds.
Well, let's be clear with depreciation. With appreciation, you can get it.
Yes, you can get it.
It's not a guarantee that you're going to get it. You can get it, though.
As long as the market's going up and not coming down. Because if it's coming down, well, then, if you bought gold at a certain number, then it comes down below that, you lost money.
Yep.
Or if it just stays the same and inflation continues to ride, then that means you're actually losing money on that investment. So, once again, we can check the real estate box on every single one of these. Control over the asset. Do you have any control over stock prices?
Not really, no.
Gold, silver, bonds, crypto?
Nope.
No. Do you have control over the price of real estate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So many things that you can do to actually improve the value, the desirability, and the price of a piece of property. Another one, multiple exit strategies. What kind of exit strategies do you have with stocks, gold, silver, bonds, crypto?
You sell it.
Yeah, that's limiting.
Yeah, that's you've got no other exit strategy.
What kind of exit strategies do you have with a piece of property, with real estate?
Oh, so many.
My goodness, there's so many things that you can do with it. You can do a lease option. You can do a long-term lease that converts to ownership. Some people might say that's a lease option, but there is a difference. You can do...
you can hold it long term.
You can
just
turn
it
into
into a rental. You could have it be a short term rental. You could. There are so many different options of how you can structure real estate that it really is. We don't have enough time to go through all of the options.
I had an individual who got stuck on a deal and thought, I'm going to need to keep it for the long haul to just wait for appreciation to overcome, some of the deficit, because he didn't buy it right, and the long term rents were not sufficient enough. The short-term rents, if you turned it into a nightly rental, weren't going to cover it. So what he decided to do is he turned it into disabled veteran housing.
Oh, yeah.
And he rented it by the room, and he crushed it.
Yeah.
Crushed it. See, these are the things that you can do with real estate that you can't do with crypto and you can't do with stocks and bonds. Another one, too. Oh, this is a good one. Hedge against inflation. We kind of spoke to this already, at length. But you do get some benefit. When I take a look at the hedge against inflation, you can't really bank on stocks to do that. Gold and silver are a hedge against inflation, but you can't bank on bonds. You can't bank on crypto for that either. But real estate, historically, it's always proven to move at least with, if not above, inflation. Tangible asset. We talked about that too. Gold and silver is a tangible asset, but stocks, bonds, crypto, not so much. Ability to add value. Well, it's not. We've already talked about that. You can't really do anything about the other investment things out there, but real estate,
absolutely,
you can change its desired outcome.
You can force the appreciation.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. How about debt pay down by tenants, by renters?
I've never seen that with gold.
I've never seen it with crypto either.
Or with stocks.
No, or bonds either. Yep. But do we get it with real estate?
If you do it right, absolutely.
Yeah, so in other words, when your renters go in, that means they're going to pay you every single month. And if they pay you every single month, then that helps to offset any of the debt service you might have on that piece of property. So the equity position in the property grows over time because the renters are paying off the principal amount of your mortgage.
It's beautiful.
I need to go buy more real estate.
Yeah, I can't think of a 10-year span in my life where the real estate was not worth more at the end of that 10 years than it was at the beginning. Meaning that I would go back in time 10 years at any point in my life and say now is a good time to buy real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
Because real estate has been on that appreciation my entire life.
Yeah. And it continues to be so, and will continue to be so.
Yeah.
And the reason why I can say that with a surety is because the whole idea of it being a hedge against inflation, as the buying power of our currency declines, real estate prices will continue to rise. That is a given. And because it's a given, I mean, unless there was some catastrophic event that took place where half the population of the U.S. was wiped out and we no longer had the supply-demand issue, right? But as long as the market continues to grow, we've got some great upside there and some huge benefits. So leaning into this is great. Now let's talk about insurance protection. Can you insure stocks?
No.
Okay, no. Gold and silver, if you've got collectibles,
yeah,
you can get special insurance policies on things like that. That's why Lloyd's of London is in business.
They are not cheap.
No, they are not cheap. They are not cheap. They're right up there with earthquake insurance.
Yes. Yep.
Actually, they're probably more.
Probably.
And then, let's talk about bonds. Can you get insurance on bonds?
I don't think so.
No. I've never heard of it.
I haven't either.
Crypto.
Oh,
no.
no.
Insurance on crypto?
No.
Not so much? No. You need insurance on property, on real estate.
All day, every day.
Yeah, all day, every day. So if for some reason you have a loss, you get somebody to write a check.
Yeah.
Insurable against loss. Wow, what a concept. Creative finance options. Can you go in and creatively purchase stocks, bonds, gold,
I
silver?
might be able to creatively write the check, but no, there is not a creative way.
They want the money.
They want the money.
But I can go in all day long and buy real estate in a creative way and, lean into all sorts of different ways, subject to deals and seller finance opportunities. And there's a lot of different ways to make that happen. Okay, another checkbox for real estate. I think we've checked all of the boxes for real estate.
Well, yeah.
Bank financing available to purchase. We kind of hit on that earlier.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did. And absolutely, real estate is the way to go there.
Mm-hmm. And then recession resistant. Now, we can't say that it's recession proof, but we can certainly say it's recession resistant. And can you do that with stocks?
No.
No. How about crypto or bonds?
Nope.
No. Now, gold and silver, a little bit of recession protection there. You get some benefits there. I mean, if you take a look at an ounce of gold 20, 30 years ago versus where it's at today.
Yeah, but you gotta think about that. It's not just these individual categories that you want to consider. If you look at all of those categories at the same time, seems like there's a pretty clear winner if we compare all 5 of those things.
Yeah, because I made this little list right here, this investment comparison list. That's kind of what I've been going off of. And if you can look at that, you know what? Real estate checks every single box.
Yeah.
Every single box, man. So the discussion that I wanted to have here is this. If you are interested in purchasing real estate and you haven't done it, don't wait because prices are not going to come down, right? And the best time to buy real estate is 20 years ago. The second best time is today, right now. If you're an investor and you're thinking, maybe I ought to change up my portfolio. Maybe I want to get rid of some of my rental properties. Well, you can always do that, but don't get rid of your real estate to go and buy crypto, right? I mean, the days of Bitcoin are now behind us. Finding the next Bitcoin, that's what everybody's chasing because they want that high rate of return. I'm just not seeing it. It's highly risky and speculative.
That's the thing that most people need to be aware of is that there is a high level of risk with these really flashy, these really high reward looking investment opportunities. They come at high risk as well. Yeah. I have seen way more people either lose money or just break even in crypto than I have seen hit it big.
It's funny because I get to speak in front of audiences on a regular basis and I ask questions like this. How many of you have ever invested in crypto? And I get, 20% of the hands in the room raised. And I say, okay, out of that same 20%, how many of you have ever lost money on crypto? And they all start chuckling. They all start laughing and they start raising their hands. The same guys who said, yeah, I've invested in crypto. So I look for a more stable investment, something that is physical, tangible, insurable. I get tax benefits from, it cash flows for me. It's creative acquisition points and ideas. So then the next big thing is, what separates profitable investors from non-profitable investors? And I have to believe, at least in my observations, is education, knowledge, market knowledge, what's going on out there. Because if you rush into a deal and you ignore all the economic indicators that are available for it, you might lose money on a deal. But if you really play to win and you make good, sound decisions based on numbers and based on data, your probability of success, at least in my observation, is always significantly higher.
You know, it's really interesting because you're talking about all these things, and I realize that, you know, I have had a couple of deals where I've lost money on the real estate deal.
Yeah.
You know, and you're famous for saying that in real estate there is no ceiling to how much money you can make.
None.
There's no floor to how
floor
much you
either.
can lose.
That's right.
and yet, even with those deals where I did not make money,
Yeah.
I would still do them because they still ended up as a net profit for me because of the other benefits that you've been talking about here.
Right.
So even though I didn't make the money I thought I was going to make, even though, you know, I may have come out with negative dollars at the end of the equation, it was still beneficial to me because of all of those other things that you talked about.
Right.
As they blessed my portfolio. So in the grand scheme of things, I've never really lost money, but even if the transaction ended at a negative.
Yeah. Well, there you go, man. There's the benefits. I mean, we could go on and all day long, but you know, the idea that now is maybe not the best time to buy real estate. Yeah, hogwash. I heard that 5 years ago. I heard that 10 years ago. I heard that 20 years ago. And guess what? They all turned out to be wrong. It depends on whether or not you're in it for the sprint or the marathon. I'm a marathon investor. I'm a buy and hold kind of a guy.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you're just doing fix and flips, that means every single time you finish a project, you find yourself unemployed and you got to go find another deal, right? But when you're in it for the long haul, that makes huge difference. And when you buy through creative acquisition strategies, so you're buying at a discount, you set yourself up for much stronger wins, higher appreciation, and equity buildup over time, as well as higher cash flows on the rental income that you got coming in.
You know, we had somebody put here that real estate is ideal.
Oh, real estate is ideal. Holy smokes, man. I mean, I could go on about that. I'm looking at the clock, though. I'm thinking, Jay, how did it get to be 4 minutes from the top of the hour? We need to hit some of these questions, and then I got a few announcements here.
You know, the cool part is we've had some interaction, but we haven't had any questions. But I did want to read one comment here, and this is from Bob T. He said, I've taken over a 5% mortgage on a house with $170K in equity, put it on Airbnb, and it's made $60,000 and counting. We're about to cash out and refi this property and get $65,000 at closing.
Isn't that beautiful, man? Isn't that beautiful? Congratulations, Bobby T. That's fantastic.
It's awesome. I love real estate. I love the fact that I have an asset that I can lay my hands on, that I can force appreciation on, and that I can control from start to end. I don't have to bank on whether or not the news is favorable for my stocks to go up or down. I don't have to bank on what some company on the other side of the world is doing to some other company or whatever's happening. I can lay my hands on it physically, and I can physically make it more valuable because I'm there.
Yes.
And I love that.
Well, that's the beauty of it, man. And that's the great discussion that we wanted to have today, is to help everybody that's on, you know, this channel and checking this thing out, understand that now is the time to buy. Now is the time to get educated. Now is the time to invest. You know, don't wait, because there's just nothing worse than having to get down the road and going, man, should have, could have, but didn't.
Yep.
You know, that's where regret really settles in. I want to make sure that you are fully empowered to take advantage of the market, which is the reason why we have these discussions every single Monday afternoon. Now, with that in mind, I've got to get to a few things here. You know, I've already, you know, kind of given a little promotion there saying, hey, if you like what we're talking about here and you believe that it could be beneficial to you, then subscribe. I mean, you know, get us on your notifications so that, you know, you get a notification every time we've got a new episode that's coming out. Save it, like it, subscribe, share it. Share it with those individuals you want to help bless their lives that may be led down a different path to investing, and you can show them a better way. Here's the next thing, and that is this. If you want to know more about investing, because we believe that an educated investor has a higher probability of becoming a more profitable investor. That's what we do. We create real estate investors. That's what Renatus is all about. We'd love to have a conversation with you and just see whether or not we're a good fit for one another. So there's the information on your screen. We got a nice link there or a QR code where you can set an appointment just to have a simple little 15-minute conversation. Now, people are always a little nervous about making those phone calls. They're like, I don't want to be high-pressured sold. That's not the way we do business. We are a very low-pressure environment because we truly want to make sure you're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for you. And, if we come to an agreement, then great. We'll welcome you into our community. If not, we'll part friends. But set an appointment. Here's the next thing, too. We do these fantastic Renatus reviews of community members, students that we have across the country where they're willing to come in and share their information. And for the folks that are involved with us, part of our community, they get a back office where we're publishing these reviews on a regular basis just to help reinforce the fact that there's opportunity out there and it's your turn to capitalize on it if you just follow the lead of those who have gone before you. The next thing is this. We have the 2025 Fall Renatus Summit coming up. It's called the E3. And the E3 stands for Educate, Equip, and Engage. It happens October 23rd through the 25th. October 23rd through the 25th in Salt Lake City. And more details on that will be released soon. But I'm telling you, man, we got an all-star cast of instructors. We've got 30 amazing speakers and trainers over 3 days. This is going to be a barn burner of just incredible, actionable information to help you really build your business. Each of these instructors, first-class speakers, trainers, experts in their own field of study. I mean, just learn from Patrick Munson. He's going to show you so many different ways to reduce your taxes, maximize all of the different deductions that are available to you so that you can put more of your hard-earned dollars right back into your pocket. 30 different instructors, 3 powerful days of education, incredible networking opportunities with investors from all over the United States, and an opportunity for you to get educated so you can get out there and really find the confidence that means being equipped to take action when it comes to being engaged. Now, with real estate, here's the way that I like to sum it up. If home is where the heart is, shouldn't your business be there too? And whether you become a part-time investor or you transition to full-time investing, your home is generally your place of business. And that gives you a chance to not have to, fight the road rage that you do commuting to an office. Occasionally, depending on the size of your family, you're going to have hall rage, but not road rage.
Not road rage.
Yeah, there's some really great benefits to that. So listen, if we can help you, if we can serve you in the future, we would absolutely love to do it. We've got an incredible community here, amazing individuals from coast to coast that have benefited by the association they've had with Renatus. We would love to be there for you. And Jay, I'll let you do a little wrap up there. And
I got to tell you, even after 14 and a half years of being able to work with you, I am still inspired by what we get to create and the people we get to create it with. I love our family. I love seeing the success that other people are building in their lives because of the way they've been educated and then what they've been taught on how to ethically build. All the ups and all the downs can be mitigated through educated investing, and that's what Renatus is all about. So thanks for being with us. We will be back with you next Monday with another practitioner who's going to come out here and talk about the amazing things that are happening in their market. Never forget, the reason why Renatus rocks is because of all of the people who are associated with us. That includes Mr. Snyder, and that includes every single one of you. So thanks for being with us. Renatus rocks.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.